One of the most transformative and visionary leaders of the 20th and 21st centuries, Sultan Qaboos bin Said al-Said of Oman, a man who not only reshaped his country but also played a crucial role in the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East.
At the heart of Sultan Qaboos's achievements was his ability to unite a fractured country and guide it through moments of political and social upheaval. When he came to power, Oman was not only poor and underdeveloped, but also deeply divided. There were internal rebellions, regional tensions, and external pressures from neighboring states. One of the first major challenges Sultan Qaboos faced was the Dhofar Rebellion, a communist insurgency in the southern part of the country, which threatened to destabilize his rule. With a combination of military force, strategic alliances, and developmental aid, he was able to suppress the rebellion and bring peace to the region, ensuring stability for his nation.
Qaboos's leadership was not defined by military strength alone. He understood that true progress required more than just security. It demanded economic growth, social development, and modernization. In the years following his ascension to the throne, Sultan Qaboos began a massive effort to transform Oman's infrastructure. He invested in education, healthcare, and transportation, building modern schools, hospitals, roads, and ports that would lay the foundation for Oman's future.
In today's video, we will delve deeper into the life and times of Sultan Qaboos bin Said. We'll explore the milestones of his reign, his foreign policy achievements, and the incredible transformation of Oman under his leadership. We will also look at the challenges he faced, both at home and abroad, and how he overcame them with remarkable foresight and strategic vision. And finally, we will discuss the enduring legacy of Sultan Qaboos, whose leadership continues to inspire generations of Omanis and people around the world. So sit back, relax, and join us as we dive deeper into the life of a man who not only led a nation but also shaped its destiny, leaving behind a legacy that will be remembered for generations to come.
سأعمل بأسرع ما يمكن لجعلكم تعيشون سعداء بمستقبل أفضل، وعلى كل واحد منكم المساعدة في هذا الواجب. كان وطننا في الماضي ذا شهرة وقوة، وإن عملنا باتحاد وتعاون فسنعيد ماضينا مرة أخرى.
Born on November 18, 1940 in Salalah, the capital of the Dhofar region in southern Oman, Qaboos was the son of Sultan Said bin Taimur, the ruler of Oman at the time. His mother, Mayzoon bint Ahmed Alma3wali, came from a respected family in Oman. Sultan Qaboos's early years were spent in the largely isolated and conservative environment of Oman. This was a country that was then under the tight grip of his father's rule, and the country's development was stagnant. Oman, for the most part, was cut off from the rest of the world, its infrastructure underdeveloped and its economy dependent on agriculture and some trade but not diversified. As a young man, Qaboos received his early education in Oman. However, his formal education began to take shape when he was sent to Pakistan at the age of 16 to attend the renowned Areej College in Lahore, where he was exposed to a more modern Western-style education. This experience marked the beginning of Qaboos's exposure to a world outside of the traditions and limitations of his homeland. His time abroad would play a critical role in shaping his understanding of governance, international relations, and the importance of modernization. In 1958, Sultan Said sent his son to the United Kingdom for further studies. Qaboos enrolled at the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, one of the most prestigious military institutions in the world. It was here that Qaboos underwent military training and honed his leadership skills. He also studied at the University of Exeter, where he earned a degree in political science, further enriching his understanding of governance, economics, and international diplomacy. These formative years in the UK were crucial for Qaboos, as they exposed him to the governance structures and the political ideologies of the West, especially British colonial influence and parliamentary democracy. After completing his studies in the UK, Qaboos returned to Oman in the early 1960s, and he soon became involved in efforts to bring about change in Oman. In the 1960s, Oman was embroiled in two major conflicts: the Dhofar Rebellion and tensions with neighboring countries. The lack of modernization and the country not being open to the outside world were seen as one of the key reasons for the country's instability. The rebellion in Dhofar, which began in 1962, was an armed insurrection led by rebels seeking to overthrow the monarchy and establish a socialist government. Qaboos, having grown up with a Western education, was acutely aware of the potential for change, and he understood the importance of modernization and reform. It was during this time of political unrest that Qaboos began to plan the future of his nation. When Sultan Qaboos bin Said ascended to the throne of Oman in 1970, the country was in a state of relative obscurity, isolated from much of the modern world and facing significant internal unrest. Oman was deeply entrenched in an economic and social underdevelopment that hindered its potential. The country's infrastructure was rudimentary, its education system was limited, and much of its population still relied on traditional means of subsistence. In the years following his ascension, Sultan Qaboos transformed Oman into a prosperous and modern nation while maintaining its cultural identity and strategic independence. One of Sultan Qaboos's first achievements was the consolidation of power, a strong desire to modernize Oman, and an effort that required overcoming resistance from conservative factions within the country. Once in power, Sultan Qaboos worked tirelessly to stabilize Oman's internal politics, uniting the country and gaining the support of tribal leaders, the military, and the religious elite. His ability to balance these often competing factions laid the groundwork for his long and successful reign. Economically, Sultan Qaboos capitalized on Oman's rich natural resources, particularly oil, to modernize the country. When he assumed power, Oman's oil production was modest, but under his leadership it grew significantly, providing the financial means to build infrastructure, the construction of roads, schools, hospitals, and airports across the country, transforming Oman from a relatively isolated and underdeveloped country into a regional hub. The establishment of Muscat as a modern city, along with major port developments, helped Oman integrate more fully into the global economy, making it an attractive partner for foreign investment. Socially, Sultan Qaboos's policies were focused on creating a more inclusive society. He placed a strong emphasis on education, ensuring that it was accessible to all Omani citizens. The establishment of both primary and secondary schools, as well as the creation of Sultan Qaboos University in 1986, allowed Omanis to pursue higher education at home. His government also introduced widespread healthcare programs that significantly reduced infant mortality rates and extended life expectancy. Sultan Qaboos was also instrumental in establishing Oman's neutral and independent foreign policy. Unlike many of its neighbors, Oman avoided taking sides in the region's numerous conflicts, maintaining a policy of peaceful diplomacy and non-interference. His skillful diplomacy allowed Oman to become a trusted intermediary in regional and international affairs, mediating between warring parties and contributing to the peace process in places such as Yemen and the border Gulf region. He also played a pivotal role in facilitating dialogue between the United States and Iran, particularly during times of heightened tensions, and was respected worldwide for his efforts in promoting diplomacy and dialogue. The second phase of Sultan Qaboos's reign from 2000 to 2020 was characterized by continued progress but also faced new challenges as Oman navigated an increasingly complex regional and global environment. Throughout this period, Sultan Qaboos remained a steady hand at the helm of his country, though the demands of modernization and international diplomacy continued to evolve. In the early 2000s, Sultan Qaboos began a major economic diversification effort to reduce Oman's dependency on oil. which had been the backbone of the country's development, the government launched ambitious initiatives to develop other sectors such as tourism, manufacturing, and agriculture. Projects like the Oman Oil and Gas Exhibition and the development of free trade zones were part of a larger strategy to establish Oman as a regional business hub. The years after 2010 also saw a rise in social activism and youth engagement, and Sultan Qaboos responded to demands for more jobs and economic opportunities with new policies designed to reduce unemployment and improve the standard of living for Omanis. Under his leadership, Oman introduced initiatives like the Omanization Program, which aimed to replace foreign workers with Omanis in various sectors. This was coupled with programs to develop the country's human capital, especially in fields like engineering, medicine, and information technology, to ensure that Omanis could take on more prominent roles in the workforce. By the time of his death in January 2020, Sultan Qaboos had firmly established Oman as a stable, peaceful, and prosperous nation in the Middle East. His vision for Oman was clear: to create a country that balanced tradition with modernity, peace with progress, and sovereignty with diplomacy.
Sultan Qaboos's legacy is one of transformative leadership. From the moment he took power in 1970, he set the course for Oman's modern development, creating a nation that balanced economic growth with cultural preservation, social welfare, and international diplomacy.
Commitment to peace and neutrality in a region known for conflict earned Oman respect on the global stage. Sultan Qaboos's approach to governance is pragmatic, cautious, and driven by a long-term vision, which allowed Oman to remain resilient in the face of economic and political challenges.
His greatest achievement was perhaps the creation of a modern, cohesive, and prosperous society where Omani culture and heritage were preserved while embracing the benefits of globalization. Under his leadership, Oman became a model of development in the Arab world, and his diplomatic successes ensured that the country played a pivotal role in regional and international peace processes.
Sultan Qaboos's legacy is not only seen in the physical transformation of Oman, from a poor isolated nation to a thriving and modern state, but also in the enduring values of peace, diplomacy, and independence that he instilled in the nation. Even after his passing, his vision for a peaceful and prosperous Oman continues to guide the country.
كانت عمان بالأمس في ظلام، ولكن بعون الله غدا سيشرق فجر جديد على عمان وأهلها.